Hello, everyone. Welcome to a very special and exciting evening of the original Drink and Draw Social Club. With very special guest, editor-in-chief of Marvel Comics, C.B.Cebulski. Hello.
Oh, yeah.
Everyone.
Hello. Hi, everyone.
You know the other people, so I'm not going to bother introducing them because I don't get paid to do it. That's it. That's all you get. But Ceebs is what's important. Glad to have you.
No, thanks for having me on, guys. Been watching for a while, so I'm honored to be finally invited.
An honor. Stevie, I'm going to interrupt you for 1 second. Ben, these introductions suck, dude.
Well, that's what's
they really
important.
Do. You know,
I like them.
It's like when Dan was handling the show, there was no like, "Hey, you guys ready?" He's like, "We're on." And we go.
Boom.
It's like this concern about whether we're ready or not is just ridiculous.
You want me
Sorry, Stevie. Hey, Stevie. All right.
Into the fire. All right.
Right.
Yeah. Very well.
Dan never known for consent or foreplay.
Well,
Wow. Wow.
That makes sense. All right, moving on from there.
All right.
Welcome, CB.
What the hell was that?
Yeah, classy broadcast here.
And just a nice one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jeff, this is going to go real sideways quick.
Yeah. I'll let Dan talk now.
You know what we should do? Since Dave is the only one drawing here, let's do a quick.
I'm drawing.
Are you drawing? You never show us stuff. Jeff's drawing too, right?
I'm drawing too.
Wow.
I'll show you stuff later. I don't have to. I can't get my two cameras working today, so
Just getting warmed up.
CB, you're going to be pretty impressed. I know you've been on a lot of high-profile shows. You've had a lot of interviews over the years, but with Ben and I manning the cameras, be prepared.
It's a fantastic journey.
This show is so good, CB. It takes two people to man the cameras.
That's it.
But you saw what we just did there. We zoomed right in on Dave. Perfect. Yep. Yeah.
Not every show can do that.
No.
Every show wants to do that, guys.
Jeff is drawing something here. Looks like Wonder Man with his safari jacket.
The safari jacket.
Wow, that's great.
But you actually drew Wonder Man back in the day, didn't you, Jeff?
I did way back in the 90s. It was the first book I did for Marvel.
Yeah, I remember that.
And it was fun. I've been doing a lot of it's been a very nostalgic couple of weeks. People have wanted a lot of Wonder Man lately.
Wonder why that is, Jeff.
It's a good question. I don't know. People miss the 90s, maybe simpler times.
Yeah, there's some creators making 90s comics and coming. It is a very popular time in comics. CB, what were you reading back then in the 90s? What were your favorites?
I read everything. I worked in a comic store in the early 90s, from 90 to 93. And so it was, went through the Valiant boom, went through the launch of Image. Remember a lot of the Dark Horse stuff. I mean, there was some great stuff, coming out from all those companies. And then, I was an X-Men guy, so it was always X-Men. For Marvel, loved Legion of Superheroes. There was some great stuff happened at that point from Giffen. Yeah.
What do you think of Ninjak?
Ninjak, it was all right.
That's what I said.
Yeah.
So what was your first job at Marvel? When did you start working there?
I started freelance as a translator back in the mid 90s, and then started on staff. Funny enough story. My first day I started as staff on Marvel was as an associate editor, and I started on Joe Q's birthday.
Oh, sweet!
I always remember my first day.
Oh, wow.
Was there cake?
No, there was a big party that night, and I remember it was my first day, and I'd known Joe from and different things over the years. But it was like they're like Joe was like, "Why don't you come down? It's my birthday party." And I was like, "Oh, can I get in? Can I really go? Am I invited?" And went and had a really good time. And it ended up that there was an employee who just happened to lose his job that same day. But Joe graciously said, "Of course, you can still come to the party." And I actually knew this guy for a number of years. So I'm sitting at the bar getting a drink, and this guy is talking to me, complaining. And all of a sudden, Bill Jemis, who was my other new boss at that point, the publisher of Marvel at that time, comes up on this side of me and sees him. And they start speaking through me, telling each other how they hate each other.
Oh. That's not uncomfortable.
It's like a Dave and I conversation.
Trying to drink my beer, like, what am I supposed to do? One guy's my friend, one guy's my new boss. I'm caught in the middle. It was absolutely ridiculous.
Oh, uncomfortable.
It sounds like a great party, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I started as the associate editor in Ralph Macchio's office, actually, on the Ultimate line.
Oh, wow. Ralph gave me my first work at Marvel.
Did he?
Yeah. He was great. I loved going in the office and listening to him. It was, because I grew up like looking at the bullpen bulletins and everything, like behind the scenes, the drawings of Ralph that I think probably Bob Camp had drawn. And, you always feel like you already know everybody working at, in the Merry Marvel marching band before you get there.
You don't, Dan. Dan, you don't.
No,
right?
I never worked for Ralph, by the way. I refused to. No, I'm just kidding. He really was my first editor, and he was a lot of fun. So.
Right after I started, Ralph's brother, who was an actor at the time, appeared in an episode of Law and Order: Criminal Intent with Vincent D'Onofrio. The episode was on a few days ago, and I just happened to see it. I was like, "Oh my God, there's Ralph's brother!" I remember this goes back to my first year at Marvel. The episode was actually written by Jerry Conway.
Oh, wow.
Are you serious?
I was like, "What a connection!"
6 degrees of separation there.
Yeah.
Man.
That's amazing.
I hear
Now,
Ralph, Ralph still comes in, and he still consults, and right, yeah. That's amazing.
That's very cool.
Ralph's stories are the best. Ralph knows where all the bodies are buried too.
Yep.
So Stevie, how's actually, I mean, these guys should be asking you questions because we talk all the time. But how's the quarantining treated you? You losing your mind yet?
No, not too bad actually. I have a couple bad days over the last, almost tomorrow it'll be 6 weeks, which is crazy when you think about it.
Yeah.
But there are some days are better than other. But it's just going on longer and longer than anything anybody expected, and I hate getting comfortable with it because I don't want to get comfortable with it because
Right.
Sure.
we need to stay on the top of our game on this stuff. But I'm right in the middle of Manhattan, like right across the street from the library, 42nd Street right here, Bryant Park. And it's pretty crazy, but it's actually pretty dead. Like there's this map that people show of like the red zones and the hot zones. And we're like a little green zone in the middle because where we live, there's not too many people that live here. It's more a commercial district, companies and banks and everything. So even on the weekends, normally during regular times, it was dead. Restaurants don't open, liquor stores are closed. Everybody kind of gets away on the weekends. So it's kind of been that way for most of the time we've been here. And it's crazy because we live right on Fifth Avenue, and Fifth Avenue's dead. And at night, I swear, it's like that scene from I Am Legend where he just takes the car and he just zips down Fifth Avenue. And that's what it is. Biker gangs and Fast and Furious races. And we hear it all night because Fifth Avenue's completely dead.
Wow.
Yeah, I live on off of Hollywood Boulevard, and normally it's just crowded with tourists all day and all night, and it's the same thing. It's completely empty. It's awesome.
Do you ever get scared, Dave?
Actually, I did. A couple of nights ago, I was walking. It was really late at night, and I realized there's nobody on the street. And then you see some guy coming at you with a mask on and a hoodie, and you're like, "Is this how I'm gonna die?"
It's just like the old gypsy woman said.
Yeah, he's not a superhero. He could be a superhero, right?
But it's just so odd not having anybody around in Hollywood, and you're just like, you realize if something were to happen, normally you'd start yelling, but there's nobody on the street to come and save you. So you're just kind of like, well, I don't know.
I'm always going to be there for you, Dave.
Well,
If you call Dan's name 3 times, he'll appear.
Yeah.
Dave, didn't you used to live downtown? I thought I went to your apartment once.
I did. But moved away and then came back, and downtown now is so expensive that only rock stars can live down there. It's ridiculous. So came up to Hollywood, give that a shot.
Nice.
Hey, CB, are you staying busy? Are you guys still trying to work on comics and prepare stuff for when this is over?
Yeah. Oh yeah. There's still books going out every week. It's just, I personally feel busier than ever. There's just a lot to deal with, outside of just publishing. But, the editorial team, the creative teams have been working away. There's books that go out, still leave every Friday, and they're getting sent to the printer. And, when people figure out when things are going to be back up and running, then we're going to be ready. It's just push that button, and hopefully Diamond will be ready. When we get the proper number of shops open, wherever that goes, however it plays out, it seems to be changing, daily, but in a positive way, it seems. And we're just hopeful that sooner or later that there'll be new books back on the shelves for folks.
That's good to hear, because so many people are freaked out. It's nice to hear you guys are still working and planning for the future.
Yeah, when we started all this, what we're maintaining, we're just going to keep going, as doing what we do as long as we can. And certain factors all around us, all around all the publishers, just kind of made it so none of the books could start, could be shipping anymore. But everybody in this industry is working, they're doing their best to get things back up and rolling and keep a sense of normalcy. Yeah, there's changes. It's affected some creators, some staff, some books, some publishers. But, as an industry, we're a community, and I think the fact that, that everyone is concerned about the comic shops. They're concerned about the talent. They're concerned about stores. And, of course, they're concerned about the readership. It just goes to show how strong that family of comic readers and comic creators is in all of this. And everybody's doing what they can to support as best they can.
I love that.
I was just on a podcast yesterday with Mike and Ming of the Comic Book Men.
Mm-hmm.
And we were talking about how much not having conventions has been a real blow, and how we're all that sense of community. We really miss hanging out.
Yeah.
Miss that interaction. So it'll be good to have, once the conventions are up and running again, I really miss that part too.
Yeah, I think there'll be a little bit of a learning curve there, Joe. Now you and I have talked about this, but even if there's social distancing in place, I think the cons will be smaller. Even if they're open, people might be a little bit concerned to go. It's going to have to change the way that interactions are, because we all love interacting with the fans, from selfies to signatures, portfolio reviews, photo ops, sketches, even signing books now. There's going to have to be a little different approach to it as we build towards it, because there's still going to be concern, about gathering and about the possible outcomes of stuff like this.
Right. Yeah, I think the reality of it, hasn't really dawned, when you really start thinking it through, right? So clearly, if there's a convention right now, nobody'd be going. But let me ask you this: if there's a convention 6, 7, 8 months from now, and there's no vaccine, you guys going?
Yeah,
I probably am not. I'm probably going to wait it out. But I know, some creators have to go, right? It's part of what drives their economics. But at the end of the day, I just, what was that?
Frank Thierry, for instance.
Frank Thierry.
Right.
Well, Frank just likes to go yell at people. That's just, he just loves to do that. It's like, he at home he gets yelled at. When he's on the road, he can yell at everybody else, and he just sort of, hands it down. But realistically speaking, I mean, just starting to think about that, like, it's not, it's nothing against the fans, but it's actually protecting fans, not just myself, but protecting fans as well, right? Because you just don't know until there is a vaccine, what's going to happen. And again, I'm maybe putting cart before the horse, but even New York Comic Con in November, is it November, October? October, right? Right now, I can't imagine. I mean, they may have a con, but I can't imagine wanting to go or wanting to put myself in that situation.
In the middle of the Javits Center. I mean,
right?
Yeah. Well, I'm going to assume that's going to hopefully, be gone by the time this happens. But still, without a vaccine, it's really something to think about, to mull over. And I don't think it's just for creators. It's going to be fans too. They're going to be sitting there going, is it worth it, or should I wait till next year?
Yeah. I just got invited to a show in Europe in June.
Right.
Excuse me, this June? You mean 2021?
Right.
No, we just rescheduled, and Europe's slowly opening, so we need to get our money back. So we're having the event in June, and we're having trouble getting people to come. So would you mind flying over? I was like, no, I'm not gonna.
Yeah. Sure, I'll go.
Yeah.
I would think that the small shows, the kind of old school hotel shows, are probably what you'll see sort of creep up back into that niche first, and might kind of give a renaissance to those smaller shows instead of the, big bonanza shows like New York and San Diego.
Yeah, but those
over.
are even worse. I mean, those are smaller.
Right, but they're also local. You don't have the travel. Like, you look at San Diego or New York, and the amount of people that are traveling from all over the world, not just attending, but also guests. Whereas a small local, East Coast or West Coast show, everybody's driving. It's a day show. You know, they're local in the area. You don't have quite the
Well, except for the talent they're flying in.
Right.
in some cases not though. I mean, sometimes
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm
like
sure, you know,
Boston shows, and they'll bring just local guys in.
yeah, I could see that, but you know, Ben, just to put it in perspective, I wouldn't be in the same room with any of you guys right now.
Oh,
you know?
Yeah, well, I mean, that's
Yeah.
smart.
I completely understand.
I mean, you could,
It
maybe,
doesn't
you know.
mean that the
Right.
rest of society's thinking in the same way.
That's just thinking ahead. Hey, so
You
CB,
could
so
pay-
you were
actually speaking of paying,
Yeah.
Dan, I really think you guys need to fess up to pay me that $5,000 to do the show.
To do what? I missed that. Sorry.
To do the show. I mean, you guys got to start paying me. I think. You know,
I know it's getting How
inside
much
joke,
do you
guys.
want?
Sorry, inside
Right.
joke.
Like $5
Dan will tell you
grand.
later.
it
At
seems
least
fair.
$5,000.
Right.
Now, what about for you guys though? Because everybody has this image of freelancers, which I know is not true, but a lot of people who don't know, you know, comic artists, you guys are locked in dark rooms and draw all the day and never go out and play video games and order your food on PlayStation and this and that. But how is
And what's the untrue part?
Right. You know, it's funny because there's definitely been part of my life that's been spent in a cave, but as you get older and you have, you know, you're married and you guys all have, I mean, I know a lot of these guys have kids, so you have to become much more of a social animal. That it's tough. It's tough going back to, you know, your younger days where like you never left the house. I kind of miss going outside.
You can go outside, Jeff.
Not around here. It's dangerous. Better safe than sorry,
You
man.
basically live in a cow pasture in
Yeah, no, actually, we're pretty good over here. But like, there's one of my favorite things to do is go to a bar and to get away from my desk. I like going to a bar and drinking and drawing there. And now I've just been by myself in my little room.
Yeah, I totally miss our drink and draw sessions. That was good times.
I don't actually. I'm
Hey,
good.
CB, so you said you started off as an assistant editor. What was the move to full-time editing?
You know, I still remember this, and Joe, you might as well. You know, as I was an editor, an associate editor, I got a couple books on my own. I inherited X-Men Unlimited, Jessica Jones. With Joe, we worked on, launched NYX, relaunched New Mutants, a couple of books. And I had the distinctive honor of being the editor with the worst on-time shipping record.
Wow.
Yeah, I would always believe every excuse given to me. You know, the homework or the cat pissed blood on my pages. You know,
My grandma died.
yeah. So, but I always wanted to give the benefit of the doubt. Half of it was done consciously and knowingly because I always wanted the best quality out of the artists. And if I gave them a break on one issue, they'd understand and, you know, work a little bit harder on the next issue in most cases. But, you know, my books were shipping late and a lot of people would come down on me because, you know, the deadlines and shipping is an important part of the job. But I always had great relationship with talent. I always had really good talent on my books, especially new talent. And it was Joe that came to me and said, you know, there are certain editors that walk into the room at a show or, at a convention or at an event, and everybody wants to talk to them because they know that they're great story editors. Every writer in the room wants to talk to them. And he goes, your path is probably going to be as a guy who hires talent, who you walk into a room and everybody's going to want to talk to you. And he's like, if you focus more on talent, that's the person that you could become. And that's why with Joe and with David Bogart, we created the talent management division to not only bring new artists in, but to manage their careers, to help them move on up the system on books and find the best projects for them at Marvel as they moved up the ladder. So.
Yeah,
That's excellent.
That was such a boon for us too. You know, it's because, you know, at that point, you know, I'd been the one that was. By the way, I gotta say, every time I hear somebody tell a story about me that I actually don't remember, I sound really awesome, CB. So thank you. But I remember. I mean, I was basically the talent scout for the company. You know, and it was. I can't even say I had a knack for it. It just came naturally because, you know, I was talent, right? I knew what it was to be on the other side of the table. So it made you know, me going out there and trying to acquire talent. You know, I basically had the language, you know, that it took to tell creators, look, this is what we could do, and to have them, you know, trust in the fact that, you know, we'll do the best we can to make sure that their work is displayed in the best possible way. et cetera, et cetera. And then I'm at CB, and I'm like, this guy's got that gene. He's got that ability to talk to creators and really sort of, communicate, what's expected of them, what they could expect of us, and stuff like that. And we created a talent division, and it made my job easier because I had to go to fewer conventions now, and CB loves to travel, so it was like this perfect mix, where CB would just hit the road and just meet with talent, not just here in the States, worldwide. It was huge for us, and still is. So the talent division is there. It's now CB has sits in the chair that I had. And Ricky Purdon is our talent scout now. And Ricky's great too.
Oh yeah, Ricky's
find
awesome.
somebody who actually has the knack to do that. Not as easy as you would think.
Yep.
Because you also have to have an eye, not only the ability to talk to creators, but you have to have an eye and go, oh, this is a person who could definitely work out on this particular book, on this particular project.
Yeah, and it's a lot of having that, learning the vocabulary too. Because I was never really an artist, but as an editor, I had to learn that. And I still remember sitting, learning the most when I sat. You were still doing portfolio reviews. Alex Maleev was doing portfolios with us, and Adam Kubert would sit down and do a lot of portfolio reviews. Tom Brevoort as well, who would sit down with his red pen and go through stuff. And just learning that vocabulary is so important too. So when you meet people, you can talk the same language and give them that advice. Yeah. And I think where this really came together, Joe, if I'm recalling, was when CrossGen was going under, and you went down there to Florida, and there was this amazing amount of talent that we knew was going to be looking for homes. And we're like, how are we supposed to get them in the system? What are we supposed to put them on? How are we supposed to get them all projects?
Pay them.
Yeah. And at that point, Marvel was still a little bit. It changed a little bit, but Ralph's talent was Ralph's talent. Axel's talent was Axel's talent. The X-Men office with March was his talent. There wasn't much. They didn't really move between a lot of different offices, and that's when we really said, no. What talent management is going to do is be able to find the talent that's the right project across all the offices on the floor.
Right. And then with David Bogart, we sort of created the Black Magic kind of schedule board, right? Where you almost predict exactly how talent would do on deadlines and things like that. It was really, it's amazing to watch the analytics you guys worked on.
Yep.
It was very, very cool.
Moneyball for Marvel.
Yeah. So
you guys had a
explain
board?
that reference.
Stevie, here's a question I actually have never asked you. Because, and I don't want to put you in the spot, right? Because I know there are hundreds upon hundreds of creators that are really good friends with you, and as editor-in-chief, so you'll, I'm going to ask you to pick somebody from the past, right?
Yeah.
Who is your favorite artist of all time?
Geez, it's hard to say,
Me excluded.
You excluded, of course,
That helps.
But, my favorite writer artist of all time, this is going across the industry, people who have worked for Marvel who might not turn on, I think to this day is still John Byrne.
Oh, wow. Cool.
I think John, just what John had contributed to first Marvel across all the characters across the company, how his style influenced so many other artists, and then what he went on to do at DC and other companies, with Next-Men. And I just thought, John for me will always be, probably, if I had to pick one creator,
Right.
it would be John.
Cool.
Yeah, I still, whenever I draw the Thing, as much as I love the Kirby Thing, it's still the John Byrne Thing that I think of in my head.
Yeah, Tom Brevoort's been posting a lot of behind the scenes look, like old files that he has from his 30 years at Marvel, of just pencils and inks and designs and stuff that no one's really ever seen before, have been printed in very small places. And he's been doing some amazing stuff with, Kirby and Buscema, Paul Smith, and he did a whole John Byrne day or a couple of days recently. And it was just, I hadn't seen some of that stuff, and I was just blown away what the original design for Wolverine, for Logan, without his mask on, was going to be. And it looked nothing like what the current Logan looks like.
Yeah. Wow.
Wait, where was this?
Tom Brevoort's been tweeting it every day, different behind the scenes stuff.
Oh, wow.
And a lot of the websites have been picking it up and making articles on it because it's.
Oops.
Oh, see, we froze up.
Briefly.
Yeah. Well, Dave, I was going to comment anyway. I mean, clearly you didn't see it because you've been crowdfunding so hard.
Congratulations on that, by the way.
Right. Well, it's not over yet. Is it over yet? It's not over.
No.
But you made your
it's over.
You made your minimum, right?
We made our goal, but even within that
Don't
goal,
say that.
There's
You
still,
have not met your goal.
You what?
You don't say that. You haven't met your goal yet.
No, we made our initial goal, but a lot of that, some of that is shipping costs, and so we still, we're still trying to, take it even further. Yeah. But
Dave, this is the opportunity that I've sort of laid at your feet to say the name of the project.
The project. I'm not a very good self promoter, obviously.
Right.
No, the project is called.
Timmy, you back? I think he's back.
I'm back. Sorry, I jumped out there.
Dave, you missed your opportunity. Sorry, let's move on.
All right.
Actually, we'll post it in the link, Dave. How's that?
That's a good idea.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
We should do that. Steve, I have a question. It's kind of in the same vein as Joe's there. You come to comics being a fan of comics.
Yep.
And is there what's the moment that you kind of just fanboyed out? Has that happened as a pro that you've ran into a situation that you kind of like stop and go, wow, if 15-year-old me saw this, they would, lose their mind.
I'm working with Dan Panocean at last.
There of course is everybody's first Stan Lee moment, and mine was when I was still a fan. But the two that I can remember was the first time I met Chris Claremont, and the story didn't end the way I wanted it to. And Chris and I have gone on to really get along very well, and just we talk a lot, and I really still respect everything he did. But the first time I met Chris did not go as I expected. I was in my office and I hear a voice, where's this C.B.Cebulski, this CB, the editor of X-Men Unlimited? And I just heard X-Men Unlimited at that point. I was like, oh my God, that's Chris Claremont's voice. I've known it from, interviews and seeing him speak at cons and, doing some of those old Marvel videos and whatnot. So I'm like getting myself all ready and hoping someone's going to direct him to my office. And then Chris Claremont comes barging in and I see he's red-faced, angry.
Thanks.
And he goes, why, man? Why? And he gets in my face and he starts kind of yelling at me. And I'm like, oh, cow, what did I do? I'm Mr. Claremont, I'm sorry. It's so nice to meet you. He's like, we're not here for niceties. And he laid into me because I let Greg Rucka tell a story about Kitty Pryde in X-Men Unlimited that he had said in the past that he had every intention of telling at some points. So he was very flustered and very upset that I had allowed another writer to tell a story about Kitty that he had wanted to tell. So,
So he called dibs?
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, just checking. I want to make sure I understand the law.
Yeah. That's how it works, Jeff.
Yeah.
But Chris and I sat down. We talked about it. We worked it through. Everything was great. Chris had went on to write a couple stories for me in X-Men Unlimited. Thanks to that meeting, because then he knew who I was, and I told him how much I admired his work in the past. And I wouldn't have been there really if it wasn't for what him and John had done, on X-Men and growing up, because that's the book that hooked me. So that was one of my fanboy stories. And the second big fanboy story was, working with Stan. You would meet him at parties or go at places, and he would come up and shake your hand and talk to you. And he always had someone at his side, be it Gil or Max or one of the standlers, Stan's handlers.
Right.
And I heard that term.
I'd never really known if Stan knew my name or if someone was whispering in his ear, just like on Veep, when they would whisper it into Julia Louis-Dreyfus' ear, she'd remember. And one day I was sitting in a van, and the windows were dark, so you couldn't see in. And I'm just sitting there waiting because we were all going for dinner. And the door opens up, and Stan pops his head in, and he looks at me and goes, oh, hey, CB, is this the van for dinner? And I was like, oh, my God, he actually knows my name. And I literally started tearing up in the van because I was like, Stan Lee knows who I am.
Oh, that's awesome.
My
but
kids
you guys had
were,
your fanboy moments? I mean, who were Ben, you go to we all go to so many different cons and have met so many different people.
I got to meet. I think my biggest one is I met Al Williamson once at a New York show.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I've studied his The Art of Al Williamson's. I won it at a Creation Con way back when I was like 15 or 16, and I studied the shit out of that thing. And I got to meet him, and he was incredibly nice and knew who I was and liked my work. So it was a shock.
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah, mine was Jim Steranko at San Diego Comic-Con. I thought he was going to tear me a new one, and he actually knew who I was and said he was a big fan and blew my mind. So.
Wow. Notorious liar, though.
Michael Jordan in the Weston Bar at Heroes Con.
Yeah.
That was mine.
Really, that's a good one.
And he knew your name?
Yeah. No, he had no idea who the hell it was. No, he was sitting in the bar watching the Masters, I believe, or something like it, golf. And it was Father's Day weekend for Heroes. We were all going out to breakfast, and somebody had walked up by the bar. And they're like, "Hey, man, Michael Jordan's sitting in the bar." And I'm like, "Nah, you're full of shit. Michael Jordan's not sitting in the bar." And sure enough, there he was sitting there watching golf. And
It was very, that's a great
very cordial.
We're talking about comic books here. We're
I
talking
don't know
about
if he likes comic books or not, but it's Michael Jordan. That's why.
He was a superhero.
save that for like a different, live stream. I'm thinking.
Dan, I run the cameras now. Relax.
Yeah. Don't get
caught.
up, idiot.
Not gonna do it.
Sorry.
There we go. No more Dan. How's that?
So hey,
Let's be able.
Suddenly,
CB, when did you make
so much nicer.
when did you make the leap to editor in chief?
It was I'm in my third year now, so it was 2020, November 2018, I guess. 2017. Yeah.
Was that scary? Like, it seems to me like that's a whole lot of pressure. Like, what was the decision-making process on obviously you take the job, but like, did you have to think it over? Did you have to weigh the pros and cons, or you just jump at it?
There were a lot of factors in it, and I can't say that I didn't immediately say yes, because I'm sure I did. I don't remember all the factors that went into it, but I had moved over to China, so I was pretty much heading up all of Marvel's efforts in Asia. To do that, I've become a Disney employee. I was working out of the office in Shanghai. I was traveling from Japan to Singapore, somewhere every week, just really helping to grow the brand there. So, the biggest consideration for us, was, did we want to come back after that short time? Which was, that was the biggest consideration. It was not for so much me. It was for my family, and everybody, understood that, it's an offer that doesn't come along every day. And it was really, really nerve-wracking, I have to say. So.
Do you feel like you've gotten a pretty good handle on it now in your third year, or is it still a challenge? Like, I'm assuming it's still a challenge, but you feel like you got better at the job?
Every day's the current times aside. So let's put the last 6 weeks aside. But yeah, I think every day's a growing experience. Every day I learn something new. I have amazing people, by my side to help me out. From Joe, who, kind of like one president leaves a letter for the next president. Joe wrote me a very nice letter. The first day I got back to the States and got to my desk. Tom Brevoort, 30-year veteran who I've worked with for 20 of those years, is just a wealth of information, not just about Marvel, but about comics in general, and just really great. Nick Lowe, Dan Buckley, who's been a friend ever since he took over as publisher. And we just have an amazing team of people. They make it easier. And it's just, I see myself as kind of the quarterback, and it's just my job to direct the team, and they go out and do it and, make me look good. But yeah, I wouldn't say that every day isn't without its challenges and its learning curve. I had to learn patience, had to learn, when to say no. I'm a very easygoing guy. So learning to say no and tell people that I don't agree with their opinion was real hard in places. And just coming to the terms with in the end, the buck stops with you. A lot of the decisions creatively for what's been happening at Marvel and with me. And sometimes it's hard to make those decisions. And you know what? Here's the hardest thing I think I've learned, that not every comic we make is for me. And I have to remember that, I could, as a fan, there's comics that I want to make and I want to read. But not every comic can be that, because everybody's loves a different comic. everybody has a favorite character. Everybody sees stories in a different way, and everybody relates to different characters. And just because the characters that I relate to and the stories I related to and do want to tell might not be for the general reading public. I'm 30 years older than I was, 40 years older than I was when I started reading comics. And the kids come into comics now want something different. And the Marvel fans are different these days, thanks to the movies and the games and the films. So, knowing that every comic is not for me was a bit of a learning curve.
That's really interesting. How do you then know, like, if it's not for you, you're not feeling it, how do you just trust your staff? Do you trust other people, or do you just let that go?
Implicitly trust my staff. They know what they want. They read all different comics. They came up reading different things. They run in different circles. They talk to different people. They're in touch with different fan communities. And knowing that they are as passionate about their ideas and know that they're going to get out there, putting your trust into them is of the utmost importance. And it usually works out.
Yeah, I mean it's so true, CB. I remember, when we started when we revamped sort of the cosmic universe, right, with Annihilation and stuff like that, and I remember our editors coming to me, and it was Andy Schmidt first, and then Bill Roseman afterwards, who took over, talking about this can be really cool, and we've got a great creative team that really feels invested in this, and my thing was like, you know what? It's not my thing. I've never been really into the cosmic end of stuff. But if you believe in it, and you think you got a story, then let's break down the story and see if it's good just on a story level, and then let's put it out there. And they did pretty well. But more importantly, it spawned little franchise called Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah, exactly.
And sometimes even stuff that doesn't necessarily work in print has legs in other arenas. You just don't really know, but if you got somebody who's passionate and willing to take a shot at revamping something, and you feel it's the editor also sort of has the right skill set to do it, then why not? Yeah.
There's what I like to tell a lot of the editors up there, and Nick Ludlow knows this better than a lot of people because he's very passionate about his ideas and his talent. There's nothing I like more than being proven wrong. There's artists I don't like or might not be as attuned to or might not like yet. There's storylines I don't like, but give them the trust. And if they can do it and it comes back and I end up becoming a fan of that artist or liking that story or that book's a huge hit, prove me wrong all you want. As long as they keep finding success and they keep finding an audience for ideas and getting the best out of their artists and, making them grow as writers and as artists, keep proving me wrong. I love to be proven wrong that way.
That's excellent. One of the things I liked when I worked at Marvel all those years ago is that Fabian was super supportive and very very helpful in guiding, in helping me grow and learn how to be a better artist. And it was really a great time to work at Marvel, and I really appreciated just that thing. They really trusted us to do a book that was a little bit atypical for back then.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah, it's those quirky books that sometimes take off, and it's happened over the years. Those quote unquote buzz books that nobody sees coming.
Yeah.
It didn't happen for Wonder Man, but it happens sometimes.
It does. I mean, yeah, it does happen. I wouldn't know it personally, but I've heard of it happening.
We had a fan question for you from Bill O'Donnell.
For me?
UCB.
Oh.
Bill O'Donnell asking about how Hickman pitched House of 10, right? Not House of X.
How Powers of 10, House of X, and Powers of 10. Yep.
Okay, all right. So how did Hickman's pitch of that go?
Jonathan, I don't remember all the dates exactly, but Jonathan first pitched this was, Joe, you might have some memory of this too. I want to say it was like 5 years ago at one point. And it was a different pitch entirely, but he had this crazy idea of stopping all the X-Men books and coming up with what now we know as House of 10 and Powers of X. And it was a different concept, but at that point it was a little too radical, I would say. There was a lot going on in different places. X-Men, the franchise was still with Fox at that point as well, with the movies coming out. And I don't remember all the details, but that happened way back, a number of years ago. And then literally when I came back as EIC, just happened to be at the time that Brian Bendis left for DC, which was tragic for me because Brian's been one of my best friends from even before we were both at Marvel on the con circuit back in the 90s when he was doing a lot of Caliber stuff, and we worked together on Ultimate Spider-Man. He was one of the first writers I worked with when I actually joined Marvel. But Brian was leaving, and we were looking for to bring some of the writers back, find new blood, new talent, kind of new ideas, and revitalize things. And just so happened that that's when Jonathan popped back into the picture. I haven't been at Image for a number of years since he had wrapped Secret Wars at Marvel, and things just kind of aligned. And he had that X-Men pitch. He had reworked it up in what's going on in current continuity. One of the big things that people don't realize is, oh, Jonathan Hickman came in and wiped out all of X-Men continuity and changed everything, and he hates the X-Men. There is no bigger X-Men fan in the world than Jonathan. He could go toe-to-toe with me or Brevoort or even Chris Claremont on continuity and things like that. So he has nothing but respect at everything that's going forward. And Jonathan had been reading all the books over the years and said, based on where everything is now, here's where I think we should be going with the X-Men, and pitched a revised version of that. And this time around, we were ready to do it.
Well, there you go. There's a follow-up question to that I think you kind of answered to a degree, but how long does it take from a story pitch to move from creative summit to a reality on average? Since that one was years, but
yeah, some can go years, some can be months. We'll have the easiest way is we have an idea for a cover program or a variant, or to kind of quick change a storyline. A good example of that was the Kitty Colossus wedding. They were on the path to being married, and we went into a retreat, and it was pitched like, hey, it shouldn't be really Kitty and Colossus. We should fake everybody out. It really should be Rogue and Gambit who are getting married. And on this, the writer of the book wasn't in the room at that point, Mark Guggenheim. We said, wow, that's a great idea. Left, for to change. We got the secret cover done. We still kept playing it as Kitty and Colossus were getting married, but kind of put that out as a last minute reveal, and that happened very quickly. So, but I would say on average, from where it could take from 6 months to a year for a new idea or a new storyline or something that's pitched in that room to come to fruition.
So generally, you're working 6 months out from where you're going. Yeah,
a more detailed plan about 6 months out. We kind of know where we're going. Well, before all this started, we kind of knew we were supposed to have a creative retreat 2 weeks ago. We were going to start planning out the top of 2021, because we know pretty much where everything is going for 2020, right up to the last week of the year, to the last week of December. We had an idea what we were going to do then to lead everybody into 2021. But now that's all pushed back. So we're just going to have to start rejiggering schedules and figure out when things get back on the rolling, where we're going to end up, and where we're going to start over, and where things are going to go.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
That leads me to like a logistical question. There's so much interconnectivity between the comics, the TV shows, and the movies and the video games. Do you have to clear new ideas with all those different parts of the machine, or can you basically just do what you want when you feel like it's a good story?
How dare you, Jeff? How dare you?
It's a little bit of both, to be honest with you. It used to be that comics really drove the bus. But as we've grown, on a global level, on a brand level, across all these different lines of businesses, especially thanks to to Disney and what they brought to the table for us over the last 12 years, it's a symbiotic relationship. And I always say, that Marvel's still the heart of the Marvel Comics. The comic division is still the heart of the body. Like we pump the blood in that flows to the movies and the games, the TV shows, and everything else. But it's a circular system. So what games is doing, what the cinematic universe is doing, what the TV team has come up with, a lot of those ideas and those concepts, the designs, the costumes, the characters, they come back and flow into comics. So we kind of influence each other. But still, as a whole, comics is kind of where it's the incubator. It's the where we drive, tell the stories that we want to tell, and let the other divisions pick up on them. And when they have great stories and great ideas they want to tell, we're happy to incorporate them back into what we do.
So, does Disney ever tell you like you can't use a certain character because they're going to use it in a movie like 3 years from now?
No.
3 years from now? No. Well, we used to have to deal with that when I worked at Warner Brothers Animation. I mean, there was a point where while we were doing the Justice League cartoon, we couldn't use Aquaman because they were thinking about doing an Aquaman movie. And this is, 10 years before the Aquaman movie actually came out. And it was like, what? Like, why does it matter if we use Aquaman? I mean, it's a cartoon versus a live action movie, but it used to. I knew it used to drove like Bruce and the guys at Warner Brothers Animation like batshit crazy. So
no, you
know any of that?
Joe, you can talk to this too, but for as long as I can remember, I don't think Disney's really said boo to us about anything really creatively. They've been very hands off. It's kind of if it ain't broke, don't fix it. They purchased Marvel for a specific reason, and we've been living up to and beating a lot of the expectations that they expected. Would be lying if I didn't say that during when there was the X-Men with Fox, that there aren't considerations that we had in certain things there, but they weren't really anything that would affect how we were telling stories. So we've really never had any influence from the outside affect us as a publisher. With any of the characters we do, nothing's been hands off. We're allowed to tell the stories that we've pretty much wanted to tell the entire time. So.
That's good.
I think that's great.
Yeah, I mean, I remember hearing stories about that also, like even at DC when before a Batman movie came out, especially the first one with Michael Keaton, right? There was so much care that had to be taken not to do anything radical with Batman in the comics and stuff. But that was never the case at Marvel. I mean, I think the thing that really proved it more than anything was, the sort of the grist that we put Tony Stark through during Civil War. I mean, Tony Stark, was perceived by fans for a while there as sort of the villain of the story, but at the same time, he was the one character that every writer wanted to write because he was so interesting in Civil War. And this was as we were, planning the Iron Man movie, right? We're in the thick of it. So conventional old Hollywood wisdom would have been like, don't do that to Tony Stark. You can't, because he's got a movie coming out and we don't want people to pick up the comics and realize that he's like a villain or maybe think of him as a villain. No, you can't do that. No, in fact, it actually worked in our favor, because what happened was that here's a character, he's not Spider-Man, right? Or he wasn't Spider-Man. He's pretty close to Spider-Man now. But suddenly people cared about Tony Stark. Fans cared about Tony Stark because, there was something really interesting happening with this story. But yeah, I don't quite understand that methodology. Like, you would think that years before, I mean, you use animation to support, licensing programs and eventually to also bring notoriety and recognizability to a character, right? So you use animation. If there's an Aquaman movie coming down years down the road, well, you want to get Aquaman animation out there because you want kids to know who Aquaman is, right? You start with the little kids and let them grow into it with animation. So, that was always our philosophy. That's why we were doing a lot of those, Spider-Man cartoons to make sure that Spider-Man is out there, especially in the years where there's no movies in between, right? So, I remember hearing that kind of thing and then shaking my head saying, I don't quite understand. And I wasn't even at Marvel at the time, so it just never made any sense to me why you would hunker down on a character around the time when you really need the character to be out there and popular and recognizable.
Yeah, it was ridiculous,
Yeah.
But,
yeah. Made you angry, Dave?
I was.
He wanted to tell some Aquaman stories, apparently.
Well, one of the reasons I asked is because when I was working at CrossGen and I was doing Way of the Rat, and there was a screenplay being written and some movie interest being generated, they were real concerned that the book since it only had Asian characters in it, that it wouldn't be a popular film, that we couldn't sell it. So we had to add a white spice trader to the Asian story line, and it was irritating. I'm like, because we had to make that concession to hope to sell the film, and I'm glad.
People like Dune. There's a lot of spice in that, Jeff.
Yeah, there's a ton of spice, and it must flow. Yeah. So yeah, I've experienced it personally happening, and I just always wondered how Marvel navigates that.
I think the other thing that's good about how we do it is, if you look at our different divisions, they're populated with people or run by people who are huge comic book fans. Marvel Studios, Kevin Feige, long boxes in his closet, still reads comics. Bill Roseman at Games, Wednesday Warrior. He's out there every Wednesday getting books. Loves it, knows it inherently. It's in his bones. Jeff Loeb, Marvel, TV, comic book fan, comic book writer. Nothing but respect for what goes on in the books month to month. So the people who run these divisions and have a lot of influence over the other brands of Marvel know at their core that they're comic book fans too, and have the respect that to give us that respect back.
It works.
Yep. I'm gonna get a drink real quick. I'll be right back.
We'll never
Yeah.
see you again.
You know,
Okay.
I can pick up a little bit there from there as well. You know, the other thing is that, you know, the comics are, you know, while the comics reflect a lot of what's in the movies and in TV shows, you know, as a division, the comic book division is encouraged, right, to continue just being wildly creative and come up with stuff. And, you know, sometimes it sells, sometimes it doesn't, but you never know whether there's going to be the next great idea that could drive an entire movie franchise, right? Sometimes all you need is one idea. And in comics, when you put something out there, if it fails, we talked about this before on the show, you put it out there, you know, you lose thousands of dollars. If a movie goes out there and fails, well, you're out millions upon millions of dollars, huge marketing campaigns, licensing campaigns, you name it. You know, you only get so many bites at the apple with this kind of stuff. So putting something out there as a comic and seeing it road tested in a lot of ways, a road tested at a very inexpensive number, is something that, you know, that companies, that IP companies wish they had, right? I mean, there's lots of IP companies out there, but what Marvel and DC have is that audience that really is sort of a test audience that's out there that's going to tell us what's working, what's not. And even sometimes if it doesn't work sales-wise, you know, that audience, there'll be aspects of a story that when you read it, you see it on paper, you go, oh, you know what, there's something there. It doesn't translate to a comic, but maybe it translates outside of the comic.
Well, one of the things I've in most recent, not recent history necessarily, because it's a while, but Steve Epting was always one of my favorite artists. I got to sit next to him at Caution and watching him go on and do Winter Soldier, and then see that really become a movie was great. And I really thought that was one of the best, the best translations of comic to film.
Yeah.
Oh. And you know, when you think about how Winter Soldier really came about, right? And all credit to Ed Brubaker as well. But we were at a small editorial meeting, and it just sort of hit me. You know, there are certain things that are taboo in Marvel, right? You know, like you don't ever want to bring back Uncle Ben, right? It's a taboo, right? And it changes way too much of Peter as a character. But it occurred to me that why has no one ever resurrected Bucky? The character's being treated as one of those unchangeable things. But when you think about it, he really, outside of being Cap's sidekick in World War II, there's really not much of his death that affects Cap in the modern continuity. What if we brought him back? And it was as simple as that. And we were sitting around and I think Ralph at first sort of bristled at the idea, and then as he started thinking about it, he's like, yeah, you know, this is not Uncle Ben. This isn't like Batman's parents or that kind of thing. You know, it's just Bucky. And why not? So Ed ran with that and then created the Winter Soldier. I mean, so that idea was like all out of him. But it just goes to show you how some of these conversations, you know, end up being really, really fruitful in very, very significant ways. Even though that wasn't the intent. The intent was like, hey, let's tell a good comic book story. What if Bucky came back from the dead? And then Ed just killed it, you know.
I use the appropriate glassware for the evening.
There you go.
Nice.
I got my. You might want to hire my son. Check that out, CB.
Nice. Mm-hmm.
I mean, that is beautiful. Oh, that's his hand. And it says, "I love Dad."
All right.
Who do you make that for?
I don't know, Dan.
So Dan, you discovered you're actually the father.
The test finally came back.
I was gonna say, Dan, it's a little sloppy. I'm a little disappointed.
The one he made, Dave, is nicer.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was your dad too. It was really weird. Why did I say Dad, Dave?
Hey, CB, without giving any secrets away, is there anything you can tell us coming up that you're excited about?
You know, right now, fans around the world should be right in the middle of Empire, which is a great event that we had planned with the FF and the Avengers. It was really a big crossover. A4 we were calling it, so we changed the name to Empire, and that's been delayed, obviously. But it's just a wonderful story written by Dan Slott and Al Ewing, two enormous, powerhouses of writing, and drawn by Valerio Schiti, who's just been working for Marvel for about 5 or 6 years now, and this is his first big event. And it's a beautiful book, and it really it's a follow-up, the continuation, the possible end of the Kree-Skrull War. There's an alliance now has been teased, and this is the ramifications of that. And it's just a real it's deep in its blood, just a Marvel comic as they come.
Cool.
How's that, Jeff?
It's just what I wanted to hear.
I think he's excited.
You can't stump CB, Jeff. You've tried all night.
Yeah, I tried to catch him. That was a gotcha question.
There's so many books I'm excited about, and I say that really as a point of pride, not just here to stump for projects, but every book that we put out, there's something special in it. There's something for everyone. One of my favorite books currently is Ant-Man by Zeb Wells and Dilip Burnett. It's a kind of an off-kilter, atypical Marvel book, really. It's hard to do horror in comics. It's hard to do comedy in comics. This one pulls it off, and I laugh out loud just from the way that they actually write the recap page from an ant's point of view to the end of every issue. It's a laugh out loud funny comic, and it's beautifully drawn, beautifully colored, and I'm just really proud of that book. That it's one of those under the radar books that I encourage everybody to pick up if they can.
Zeb is truly one of the funniest human beings I know. I mean, just naturally funny.
And we have Zeb's been coming to the last few creative retreats, and he walks into the room and he tells his stories, and you are literally everyone is in tears almost from the way he pitches the stories and tells how they come out. And
it's one thing when the
books.
Sorry.
No, and it really what he pitches and that humor comes through, and I'm as you read the comic too, he's amazing at making the jokes hit and the timing and the punchlines in printed form.
Yeah, it's funny because all the writers come in and they pitch their stories, but everybody's like, has Zeb pitched yet? Because it's just it's like a stand-up routine. I mean, he's not intending it to. He's just describing his story, but the darn thing is so hysterical that everybody just wants to be around to hear the pitch.
Yep.
He's just so good.
Mark Brooks is weighing in on Dan needing a haircut in the comments.
Yeah, this is nothing.
Something we're all having to deal with here in this brave new world we're in is.
Yeah. Well, Ben, you always wear the hat, so.
Well, I got the NFL hat on tonight,
If you're looking to invest, if there's a publicly traded barber or haircut company,
the guy
start investing now.
that he threw away is kicking himself, man. Floby could be a millionaire right now.
Yeah.
Who's this?
Floby. Remember the Floby?
Yeah. Oh, the Floby, man. Dude, we made fun of it for a long time.
Now we're all wishing we had one, right?
Yeah, it's Zoom stock and Floby stock is like skyrocketing.
Yeah. What they say, Netflix is up, Disney Plus hit record numbers, video games are up 1.6 billion in March or something. It's like, wow, this is out there making money from this, So
yeah, I got some video game excitement stuff coming up. Some cool video game art I get to do. I'm like, oh, well, that makes sense. Of course, that industry's doing great right now.
Yeah.
Is that secret, Dan, or can you tell us what it is?
I wish I could. Yeah, it's fun. It's one of Dave's Twitter friends. Some I guess I could say it. I mean, it's some Walking Dead video game stuff.
Cool.
Cool. But I want to give away what the actual game is or anything. But if you DM me, I'll tell you everything. All the
Excellent.
secrets. I was
called zombies.
So, yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah.
So Joe,
you play games?
Joe, what are you drawing? I haven't seen much. You said you were going to hold it up a couple times as you're going.
Oh, yeah. I'm actually I'm sort of thinking it piecemeal here, but it's probably do a little Thor here. Hang on.
Oh, nice.
But it's probably easier if I have a digital layout that I'm working from. So let me just share the screen. Give me a second. I'm looking on a whiteboard. Where's my mouse? Let me get the art.
By mouse, everybody, I have to explain to some of our viewers. Mouse, he means a digital mouse. Joe's house isn't infested in any way.
Right.
It's a new era, online era.
Well, the New York rats are eating each other, apparently.
Oh, that's such a horrifying story.
Yeah.
As if they didn't before.
No dumpster food for the poor rats.
But as if it's the first time these rats are like looking at another rat going, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
They've been eyeballing certain rats for a long time.
I remember the first time when I moved to New York, and I looked out in the apartment window, and I looked down and go, wow, those dogs are all off leash. And they're like, nope, those are rats. So
Is that the Alphabet City one we were at?
yeah.
Yeah, those were huge. Those rats were gigantic.
Yeah, there's cats, Tiger King style.
Yeah.
That
So
from this angle, that looks like Thor.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
it's Thor. Yeah, I'm doing a commission. You know,
Nice.
you know me. I hardly ever do a commission, but you know, so I'm
It's
doing
really, you never did. That's really cool. Wow.
this. So yeah, you know,
Somebody's lucky.
Yeah, totally.
so this
These
is the digital layout that I work out of. You know, so this is drawn, and now I'm trying to. You know, I'm not a great inker, so it's taken me a while.
You know what? I love that silhouetted side of the helmet there. That is really cool. Can you zoom in on that, or?
Yeah, hang on. It's probably gonna be
I
sloppy.
also really love those sharp angles on the cape there.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Oh wow, yeah.
Yeah, it's just it's a flow thing, man. It's a flow thing. Guide that eye.
Is that your island, Joe? Is that island you own?
Yes, but this is yeah, that's my island. Yeah, it is.
Nice.
Yeah, it's been a good run of comics. So you know,
Yeah, it's relaxed. You know, when you got to kick back a little bit, sure.
yeah, you know, I go to my island. Although the downside is it's chock full of coronavirus. I mean, just war coronavirus. So
You guys got quarantine. Whole trick is quarantining.
Speaking of commissions, I know a lot of people have been contributing to Creators for Comics to help out Bink, you know, and the comic store charity. But Joe, you were going to donate your time for a portfolio review, correct?
oh yeah. Still am. A gentleman by the name of Joe Hamilton won it. So we're going to work out our schedules and figure out exactly because he actually works for a living, you know. So we're going to figure out a schedule when we can do it. But it's going to be fun. You know, I haven't done a portfolio review. I can't tell you the last time I did a portfolio review. So it'll be fun. You know.
Well, Joe, like I've watched your the cup of morning, Joe, the thing you've been doing.
Jeff.
Tell me the title.
Warm up. The morning warm up, Jeff.
A cup of Joe. Morning.
No, it's not a cup of Joe.
a thing on the other network.
Legally, we couldn't call it Cup of Joe. You know.
All right. Warm up with Joe, but episode.
No, just the morning warm up.
So Joe's morning cup is
comic book corner with Joe.
right. Anyway, you gave a fantastic seminar on storytelling and drawing comics the other day, which I think is well worth the price of admission.
There's no price; it's free.
There's no price. I give it away. I just give it away.
Just give it away.
I just give it away. And by the way, you know, we speaking of storytelling, we've been talking about. And we keep not doing it. You're going to do a little sort of storyboard seminar for us here, right?
Yeah, at some point.
You know, when Dan allows it. I mean, he keeps bumping you, which really sucks.
Well, we keep having such fantastic guests that my little class on the rule of thirds is does not hold water.
Yeah.
Well, it's still important.
Sure. Someday.
Send me some sanitizer and eggs, and you might have your wish come true.
That's right. I just had to grease the right wheels, right, Dan?
Yeah.
CB, you up for another audience question?
Sure. I'm here. I booked my evening just to talk to you guys. So
marathon, basically.
Let's see. Dan moved the thing on me, so it jumped. The question for CB: love all the various pins. It's like stylish tie pins or cufflinks. You must have a ton. How do you pick which one to wear each day?
Yeah, very observant. I always say that, we have the luxury that we don't have to wear, neckties or suits or any of that to work. We kind of just wear what we want. I have traditionally what I think Scotty Young dubbed the CB uniform. Him and Mark Brooks used to joke about it. It's just same thing I've been wearing since I was a kid. Adidas sneakers, jeans, some kind of comic book related T-shirt. As I've gained weight now, I cover up a little bit with a button down. But and that's what I wear. And but as I started going to cons, especially since I've become editor in chief, I just want to represent Marvel. So I collect and wear different pins now. And if I'm on an X-Men panel, it's an X-Men pin. If I'm on a Thor panel, it's a Thor pin. Avengers panel, Avengers pin. And doing general interviews and things, it's a Marvel pin. But people now have started giving me pins. We've been trading pins. So I've got an enormous collection that I try to put on for every occasion. And this is actually the Marvel 80th anniversary pin from last year. It was a Tokyo Comic Con exclusive I picked up when I was over there. So,
Really
Cool.
So the
Mark,
CB,
you said was watching here, right?
yeah, Brooks was here. I don't know if Mark's still tuned in or not.
Mark's a lurker. He's a bit of a.
He's a busy man. He's got that mustache that he's got to work on these days.
Hey, Dave, did he ever give you a haircut? I know he wants to. John Byrne was giving people haircuts for a while. Like he gave John Beatty. He shaved John Beatty's head. I remember at a convention.
What?
Yeah, it's true. John Beatty, a long time ago, wanted to ink a Superman issue, and John Byrne was like, "I'll do it if you let me cut your hair, John." And John thought about it, and at the convention, then John Beatty, and he did cut it. It's beautiful. He's pretty good at haircuts, as it turns out.
That's so weird. Why
Jeff, it's not that weird. He's great at drawing. Why wouldn't he be good at
Can we start with the premise that Dan lies about everything?
Oh yeah, I forgot who I was talking to.
This is actually true. That's a true story. It happened at Orlando Con, which later turned into MegaCon.
It's not true.
It's true. Ask John Beatty at johnbeatty.com.
So John Byrne is a quadruple threat writer,
Yeah.
drawer,
Cosmo.
haircutter.
Barber, yeah, he's a barber.
Yeah.
Mark Brooks, I think, did offer to cut Dave's hair once, right?
No, nope.
See what I mean? See?
Let's see here. He's still here, and yes, free haircuts, no guarantee on quality.
Dave, who cuts your hair, Dave?
I do.
Uh-huh.
You do a good job, Dave.
Of it, so what the hell? Why would I spend money on a haircut?
Speaking of John, going back to an
I
earlier
have no idea why you would.
Oh, CB, he's going back to an earlier one. What is it?
we were talking about fanboy moments, and I can remember my most recent one now was with John Byrne. Oddly, long story short, I grew up in Fairfield, Connecticut, Easton, Connecticut, but it was right near Fairfield, and we spent a lot of time in Fairfield. And the BPRD, the headquarters, is set in Fairfield because of John Byrne was the original, wrote some of those stories for Mike back in the day. That's where he said the BPRD. John Byrne lived in Fairfield, Connecticut at that time. So
John Byrne had an amazing house there. I don't know if he still does, as CB is out.
Did you lose me?
Yeah, well, just a second about you're with John Byrne in Connecticut in Fairfield.
Okay. Yeah, so we knew where John lived, and we're like, that's John's house, but we would never have the nerve to drive down his driveway and ring his doorbell and be like, hey, we're huge comic fans.
That would have gone over well.
But,
Yeah, I wouldn't recommend that. No, I've actually had that happen to me. I've had at an old apartment of mine. I had somebody just show up and knocking on my door.
What?
Ringing my doorbell. Yeah,
That's wildly inappropriate.
But
it's also kind of scary. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, I'm sorry. You know.
But it was 2 years ago I met John, and we just started talking, and I'd mentioned we were from the same town or lived in the same town, and he's like, oh, I don't live there anymore. I live somewhere else. He's like, you should come by the house sometime. And really, I thought he was just saying that, but he was actually serious. So I actually ended up going to John Byrne's house after 3 decades of knowing where he lived and thinking about what was going on.
Now, Stevie, was he there, and what did you steal?
did he go? Do you need directions? And you go, nope.
Nope. I'm actually right around the corner.
I know. I got it. I got this, John. Don't worry about it.
I'm at the door now.
Now he picked me up.
Or even better, I've been there.
Exactly.
We had a wonderful afternoon. His art collection, his memorabilia collection. I mean, it's just amazing. So I was just, just a kid again when I was walking around the place trying to keep my cool, being like, oh, I'm the editor in chief now. I can hire this guy for work. So
cool.
Awesome.
Dave, is that supposed to be Namor jumping down there, and you drew him as a thing? That's a Namor pose.
Ask Rich Buckler, man.
That's a Namor pose.
I'm just doing this recreation for Anthony. So
Dan, let's see what you've been drawing.
Who?
You.
That Daredevil piece.
Let's see that Daredevil piece.
Oh shucks, I can't.
Did you put some yellow marker on it?
did you screw it up?
Nope, I didn't touch it. That's there it goes. Let's see if it can focus in on that. Nice,
Nice lighting.
word. You know what? I used a ruler on the logo.
See, I knew it.
I hate doing that, but I did do it.
You use it all
Sometimes
the
you have to
time.
give in.
Stop.
Yeah.
Oh, that looks great, dude. Nice cityscape. Very Frank Miller, Klaus Janson, Daredevil.
I used to love those pinups that they would do, whether they were for the calendars that Marvel used to put up, but it was just like special illustrations, and you'd never know how they'd pop up. But Klaus and Frank would just do these amazing pieces. Klaus would color them, which is insane. That was part of the beauty of that book.
Hey, now, Dan, can you hold that piece up again? Because, I know you like doing the hard critiques of Dave's stuff.
Oh, no.
Can you flatten it? I mean, could you put it perpendicular to the camera so we don't see it warped? I just want to take a good look at it.
Oh, God.
No, I'm just getting the logo. It's not going to help.
Oh.
No, okay.
Does that help?
No,
Yeah.
come on. No. Yeah. So let me ask you. So is Daredevil, is he just jumping up for joy? Is that what's happening here? Is he just like?
You know what I like about Daredevil, all kidding aside? I love that out of all the superheroes, there's like Batman, all these kind of, he has horns on his head. Batman has horns on his head, but there's something.
Batman doesn't have horns on his head.
Well, it kind of does. He's got little ears. They look like horns.
Ears. He's got fat ears. All right.
If it's Billy Jones, those are horns.
He's called Batman. Yeah. Not called Horn Man or Horny Man or whatever.
It's not Horn Man? I thought it was Horn Man.
Not Horn Man. And Daredevil's not Horn Man either. He's Daredevil.
Sometimes they call him Hornhead, though.
They do, but that's not even the book.
No.
There's no book called Hornhead, Dan.
If I ever, CB, if you're paying attention, if I ever do a Daredevil book, let's just call it Hornhead.
You won't now. That's for sure.
Yeah, right.
But no, what I like about him
That's been pretty short, my friend.
it's never going to happen. What I liked about him is there's always like a poetry to Daredevil. Like there's something different about the way that superhero moves through the city. It's he can't fly, but it's almost like he is flying. Like he's totally free. There's nothing encumbering him.
Yeah, you realize he's not real, right? You know he's not real.
But no, this is my friend Daredevil, Matt Murdock.
You shush your mouth, Joe.
Sorry,
He was
my bad.
very sad. It's the first time I'm serious and passionate about something, and you guys are a little bit of bullying me a little bit.
A little bit.
I'm trying to give you a critique, and you're just jumping all over me. You're not ready.
You're saying, why does he look like he's flying?
Well, I mean, no. I mean, it just looks like it looks like if you put a word balloon there that said "Yippee," it would work, right? It would just work.
To quote Aaron Page,
Lord of the Dance.
He's
That's my inner monologue. Yippee.
He's not hunkering down here about to go after bullseye, right? He's just kind of like jumping, like there could be a trampoline right underneath him right now, right? We just don't see it. It's off camera.
Yeah, I mean that's
Right?
what it is. It's a
Dave, chime in here, will you please? I'm trying to teach this guy something.
No, I mean Dan. Hey, here's what you don't know about Dan. He's always been a huge fan of Michael Flatley, the Lord of the Dance.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, he that guy does move like water.
Yeah, beautifully so.
Yeah.
Well, that's my contribution.
Joe, I'll remember, speaking of critiques, I'll never forget when I laughed so hard one time when we were out with Alex Maleev. And, Alex is one of the quintessential Daredevil artists, along with, you and Wally,
Right.
and Hank, and a handful of other people. And we all love what Alex does on Daredevil. But there was a cover that he had turned in where it was like Daredevil in the clouds above Manhattan. And he had his billy club out and had the rope along the swing line the same way. And you were trying to get to Alex what Daredevil was swinging off of above Manhattan. Was it an airplane? Was it a hot air balloon?
Right. Yeah. He was above the Empire State Building.
Yeah, that's what it was.
Above the Empire State Building.
In the clouds.
Alex loves to critique art, right? I mean, and he does it with that snooty European accent of his. You know what I mean? This artist. Oh. So any opportunity I can get to like tear into Alex is just some of the most fun in the world. But literally, Daredevil is about above every skyscraper in New York, and I'm like, what is he swinging off of? What is going on here? Because we know he doesn't fly. How is he above the Empire State Building, dude?
Yeah, but
there's nothing taller in that area.
Would you ask Ralph Bashki that, for those old Spider-Man cartoons? Come on.
You might.
Yeah, I would.
Yeah, seems like a reasonable question.
It's a fair question.
I mean, it is a fantasy universe, but it's still New York. You know,
Right.
I mean, if it was Batman swinging over Gotham City and there were tall buildings, plausible there's something taller because Gotham City isn't real. So, but New York is New York, and when you're in that 34th Street area, that Midtown area, there's nothing taller at that time than the Empire State Building. So,
hey, next year you're gonna start bitching about bows and arrows. So you got to calm down.
no, I wouldn't do that.
No.
That seems like a terrible waste of time.
Yeah.
So, hey guys, I actually have to run because the dogs have to be walked. So,
Well, we hit our hours, so it's.
Yeah, that was a great show. That went by super fast.
Yeah.
CB, thanks for joining us.
No, guys, thank you so much. I appreciate it. This was a great
Oh,
chat.
what-
Anytime you need to.
one other thing, okay? Because I'm going to show you guys, because we've talked about this a lot on text. How I'm a better human being. Not you, CB, you're the best, but I'm a better human being than the rest of you guys, right? So that Thor piece that I'm working on, that's for you, Ben, okay? Because you're too cheap to buy my artwork. You bought everybody's art. Now, granted, my stuff's really expensive, right?
Yeah.
I understand, right? But you have not put your hand in your pocket. It's like, dude, open up your wallet, and George Washington's gonna squint. I know for a fact, but so I'm giving you a freebie, all right? I'm giving you a freebie, but no, actually, Ben, you're generous at Christmas. You're so generous for all of us, but these guys don't do crap for you. They really don't. So I want you to know that I'm doing and working on this sketch for you because you're all right.
Well,
all right?
thank you, though.
I may never finish it, but I want to get that out there. So,
Well, that's the win right there.
yeah,
There you
I'm gonna leave you to the mercy of these clowns. All right, man. Take care, guys. I gotta run.
Thanks, Joe.
Bye, Joe.
Later.
Bye.
Yeah, take care. Bye.
All right. Well, Joe got me all verklempt.
I know. It's a good looking piece.
Two quick messages, actually. I forgot to relay at the beginning. Dan Sven Larson told me to tell you hello.
Oh,
yeah?
Sven.
And Jeff, Ricky Purden wanted me to say hello and let you know you're still one of his favorite artists. So.
Oh, excellent. Ricky's the best.
That's very cool.
There you go.
Yep.
All right. Well, CB, thank you for joining us.
No, thank you guys for having me on. This is great. I loved it.
Yeah, thanks.
In spite of Dan, everything went pretty well. This terrible Daredevil.
Mm-hmm.
I like that piece. All right.
So thank you everyone for joining us. We hope you join us again next week. We'll have Jeff talking about illustration, maybe.
Well, we might
have another very exciting guest.
We have
either way.
Bill Sienkiewicz or possibly Walt Simonson coming up. So
Oh, wow. Jeez.
Yeah.
I'll be tuning in for those. Like, oh,
yeah, those are going to be
All
great.
right, catch us. Join us.
All right. Here's CB. Thanks,
All
man.
right, guys.
Thanks again, everyone.
Bye.
Everyone stay safe. Take care out there.
Bye-bye.
Everybody.
And